Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
At the conclusion of the Constitutional Convention, Benjamin Franklin was asked, "What have you wrought?" He answered, "A republic, if you can keep it." And today, with Biden as president, it's getting tougher every day. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot. Come on, Patriots, let's be proud and do the pledge. Good morning, good morning. And a good morning to you. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell, and we're really glad to be having you as a listener, and of course our program, our major sponsor is your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with a great big spring tire sale. You stop in and see them today. And along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, God bless you, sir. I appreciate it. I know who this is, and thank you very much. I thank you for your pledge. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to our weather forecast. And the weather brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 West of Heyburn. Right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. You can't miss them. They've got all your spring equipment for, your gardening and lawns and whatever. Maybe you're putting sprinklers in. They've got all that equipment. Hey, it's K&R Rental, 678-3122 for the best of tools and equipment for both long and short-term rental. Get a hold of them today. And right now, here's Gina with the forecast.
Enjoy today, but more spring-like weather is in the forecast. Here is a look at your weather. For today, sunny skies. We are expecting a high right around 55. Tonight, increasing clouds, low of 32. Tomorrow, partly sunny. It is going to be breezy, high of 56. Winds could gust as high as 32 miles an hour. By Tuesday night, rain and snow showers are a possibility in the overnight hours. We are expecting a low of 32. Then a 60% chance of rain and snow for Wednesday. Winds are going to be picking up as well, and we are expecting a high of 47. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
I don't know about y'all out there in Radio Land, but it was plumb chilly yesterday with that wind and everything. K&R Rental brings you the weather forecast, and they're right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. Don't forget, for the best of all your tools and equipment for any kind of a task, give them a call or stop in. K&R Rental, 678-3122. Caller, you know the drill. I'll be there in just a moment. I also want to thank our dear friends over at Daryl's Cleaners. And it goes without saying that when you look good, you feel good, you do your job well, everything, and get the best of taking care of your clothes over at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. I'm telling you, dry cleaning prolongs the life of your clothes, and they're very expensive, so take care of them. Go in and see the best, and they'll help you. Kevin and Cindy and the crew at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Stop in and see these good folks today. One other quick note, and I mean this, I really appreciate Ramsey Heating and Electric. I mean, when we have a problem here, lights, whatever the case might be, bingo, bango, I give them a call at 678-0459, and here they are. They're located at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, and they start early in the morning at 7:30, go till 5, Monday through Friday. Literally all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs. They know. They've been in business now for 7 decades, and with the best of people serving you. Please remember the name and give them a call if you want to on the landline. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. Caller, good morning. Thank you.
Well, good morning to you, too.
By the way, before you get started this morning, I owe you an apology. You called, and I forgot to call you back, and so take it from there, Keith. I am very, very sorry. Thank you very much.
Well, this is something that I want to discuss off the air, so I will try to call you back.
Okay.
But for now, what if? There's a lot of what ifs in this government today. But what if all of a sudden a bus goes in by the courthouse and 50 of these so-called immigrants come out of the bus? Now, they haven't been vetted or anything. They just crossed the border and they had to get rid of them. They just brought them and dropped them off.
Uh-huh.
What would we do?
Well, we'd probably end up doing the same thing that Gila Bend and Uvalde, Texas, and others have done. Gila Bend, Arizona, Uvalde, Texas. You're stuck.
Yes.
You're stuck. And I think that your scenario very well might happen. And I'll tell you something else right there as a caveat to what you just said. A lot of the states' attorneys general are suing the Biden administration on behalf of their states to make sure that there's a lawsuit perpetrated against Biden and his administration for what they're doing of just casting people upon the various states and saying, here, you take care of them. I hope, and I don't think he will because I don't think the man is sharp enough, that Lawrence Wasden will do something similar. I wished he would.
No way. But the first thing these people are going to think of when they get off that bus is something to eat.
Yep.
And they don't have any money.
Yep. You know, I will dispute.
What are they going to do?
I'm going to dispute that with you a little bit. You cannot travel 1,500 miles or 1,000 miles or whatever without having any kind of monetary funding for some of the basics. And I'm not so sure, and I'm just laying this out there. I'm not saying it is bona fide fact, Keith, but I have had stories. I have talked to people in New York and D.C., etc., that are a little bit more than concerned that there are some sugar daddies that are helping line the pockets with currency for these illegals coming into America.
Well, I certainly hope so. But if somebody knocked on my door, I would, first of all, I want to make sure they're not pointing a gun at me.
Mm-hmm.
But if they said they were hungry and they needed something to eat, I would feed them.
Well, I think we all have a human...
I think you would too.
I think, wait a minute, we always have, all of us, a humanitarian need and effort to help others. However, Keith, I think you're going to maybe not agree with me, but I think you might, that we've got to draw the line. We are not the keeper of every person in the world. We are not the benefactor for every person in the world that's coming across hard times. If they would have kept putting people on the Titanic after it started to sink, it would have sunk faster.
That's correct. And don't put your money on anything like that because it could happen.
Absolutely. I apologize for not getting your call taken care of, but call me later. And God bless you, man. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it.
You are are certainly welcome, and have a wonderful day.
I will. I'm trying to. Thank you very much. I want to brag a little bit about, it's not brag when it's a fact, and the fact is Dino's Septic Service, they are the best at what they do. Bottom line, period, right there. And they've got the latest of equipment to help you with all the septic tank pumping and the septic tank and drain field installation, mainline irrigation installation, sewer and sink drain lines clean. I mean, the list goes on and on. So listen, just work with the best. And they are. They've worked for us, and I can attest to that. Dino's Septic Service with the telephone numbers 436-6526 or in Burley 678-1638. Twin Falls 735-8281. Dino's Septic Service. You get a hold of them today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Morning, Zeb. I hate to change the subject. Sounds like you're talking about immigration, but I'd like to change the subject to the other $2 trillion of stimulus that Biden is going to talk about today. And what I'd like to talk about is the roads that he's talking about rebuilding. I've driven truck for 40 years now, Zeb, and the truck that I'm driving right now, I figured up, it pays almost $18,000 a year taxes towards the roads. Where is that money going? That's just one truck. Look how many trucks and cars, everybody pays taxes out here other than the electric cars out here. Where is all that money going, and how come nobody's talking about that?
I wish I could give you an honest appraisal and an honest answer as to where our money is going. But when you say going, you've got to open the door of thought and sit there and say, holy cow, look at what's going on with the border situation. What you're talking about is all tied into it. Look at the money that's going out of our pockets to fund and finance these illegal aliens. In New York State, Cuomo wants to even start giving the illegal aliens a $15,000 check for living expenses while our own people are living under bridges homeless. This is insanity.
I agree with you. It is insanity, but why is all this, our Social Security, the taxes for the road, why is it all going into the general fund? Why isn't it going to the places that it was supposed to go to?
Yeah, well, you're asking a question that we've asked for many, many years. I mean, when they've dipped into the till of Social Security and other programs, nearly bankrupting them to the point where future generations might not have anything like that. I mean, I can't answer the question. They're a bunch of thieves, they're a bunch of charlatans, and they're a bunch of fakes and frauds. Our political system in this country right now today is nothing like our forefathers anticipated it would be.
Well, I agree with you there. I just wanted to bring that taxes up, that we are paying taxes for these roads.
Yes.
I don't know what the cars are paying for gasoline, but I know that these trucks are paying 60 cents a gallon. They're making more money than what the refineries, the petroleum people are, and the C-stores have to separate that out and pay the taxes to the government for all that.
Let me ask you.
I hope that they've.
Let me ask you a quick question, please, before you leave. And Sean, there's a little feedback here. I want to ask you about what's going on with this stupidity of green energy and saying that we're going to take all the cars and the trucks off the road in the next few years and get rid of all fossil fuel burning engines and go strictly batteries. What does that do, and how is it going to affect you as a truck driver?
Well, it's going to ruin us, but I'd like to know why they're putting all the money into the roads and the bridges if they're going to take us off the roads.
There you go.
Doing that?
That's
you know, whatever they're doing does not make any sense at all, Zeb.
Amen.
Other than they're making their name for themselves and buying votes is all they're doing.
Amen. God bless you for your call. I've said what you've said for a long time, and I appreciate your call again. Drive careful out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Have a good day.
You know, the gentleman just said something, and I'm going to take that next call momentarily, but I said this a long time ago on my program. If they're going to raise and just absolutely make obsolete fossil fuels, and they're going to raise the price to the point where you can't even hardly afford to drive to the doctor's office or get groceries, or perhaps someone needs to go for a very serious kidney ailment and they have to go in for weekly visits. How are you going to afford that? And then they're talking about taking everybody off the road. They can't afford to drive, and yet they want to put $2 trillion, $3 trillion, whatever the case might be, into infrastructure. It's like supporting a ghost town. It's lunacy the way this government, and especially this very stupid Biden campaign, is trying to run this country. Caller, I'll be right there, I promise. Stand by. I want to remind everybody about America's Diner, and that's Denny's Restaurant at 611 North Overland in Burley. They've got the new sandwich melts. Oh, they are good. You've got to try that Nashville hot chicken melt with Nashville hot sauce, or the Big Dipper melt. Oh, my. Open your eyes. It's going to be fantabulous at Denny's Restaurant with really, really nice people serving you. Hey, by the way, they're looking for some great folks to come down and go to work for them, too. They've got all kinds of different categories of help that they need at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, 611 North Overland and Burley. You stop in and see those good folks today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb. You know, this border situation is just sickening to me. You look at the pictures of them people, they're about 1/8 of an inch apart. We have to stay 6 feet apart. They're covered with space blankets. I don't know whether they're wearing masks or not. You can't really tell. I can't understand how our government can allow this to happen, and how come we're not prosecuting our senators, our congressmen, our president, and our vice president because of these types of conditions they're putting these people in. It just makes absolutely no sense to me. What they're doing is inhumane. And they claim that a third of the kids on the news now, I've heard that 3 or 4 times, are being molested or raped.
Yeah.
They're letting drugs come through like water. And a lot of them kids are being put on them. And when they get here, we're going to have to support them and provide their drugs for them out of our pocket. We've got homeless people in Seattle and Portland because of the drug problem there. You can't even walk down the street, they say, for the drugs and stuff that are on, or the needles, the leftovers. For the people to, you know, it's just inhumane what's going on.
Yeah.
I can't understand how come we're not prosecuting our people that control this.
Jerry, everything you said, whether it's involving child sex abuse, the drug problems, human trafficking, everything that's going on in that border, I'm pointing my finger right now at Joe Biden, a worthless, do-nothing president. I'm pointing my finger right now at Kamala Harris, a worthless, do-nothing vice president. These people are doing nothing because they don't want to do anything. They want to create a society of voters that's going to keep their absolutely liberal loons in office almost forever. I am fed up with this administration, and they've only been in business for about 3 months. I want them out of there.
Well, we should never treat anybody inhumanely. I don't care what race they are. I don't care what color they are. I don't care who they are. We need to treat people like human beings. I don't believe in treating criminals horribly. I think we need to just do a good job of everything we do and be the best people we can across the board.
I agree, but you can't do that, and you can't subject people to the best in treatment when you have numbers of thousands and thousands and thousands coming across trying to break into our country illegally every day. It's not fair to our Border Patrol or our ICE. It's not fair, and they're wreaking havoc on the southern border of America.
Well, we need to take care of things properly. And to let things go like it's going down there is ridiculous.
Absolutely.
There's somebody behind me. I'll get out of the way so they can get in. May the Lord bless you and our whole audience. And I feel so sorry for them people on the border. It just makes me sick to think of how our government, our worthless leadership are treating the people. It's just not right.
I agree, Jerry. Thank you, my dear friend. Thank you so much. Caller, quickly, before I do a break, I'll get you on the program. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. Well, you can sum it all up. They want to destroy this country. They've been trying for decades to make us a third world country. And something I found out just over the weekend, guess who's financing BLM Antifa? The Chinese communists.
Mm-hmm.
Is that China?
Yep.
They're pouring money in there to make sure they've got all the wherewithal to be able to keep on destroying our cities. And you can bet they're our number one enemy. They consider us their number one enemy. But everything, whether it's the open borders, the attack on the economy, now we're going to see massive hyperinflation with all this money that's coming out of Washington, just printing up money, and all that money is going to chase the same amount of goods. We're liable to have some extraordinary high inflation rates, Zeb. It's just really criminal what they're doing to us, but I certainly agree. The Obama administration, I mean, they are terrible, but where's the pushback from our two senators and congressmen? I don't see much pushback at all.
Well, okay, here's the thing, Adrian. You know as well as I do that I haven't heard and or read or even been called to have them on the air so they can address the audience. I've got the biggest talk show, most popular for its time slot, and we're not hearing anything but crickets from any of them. And I find that really offensive. If they think I'm going to have to chase them every day to get them on the program, and then all of a sudden at the last minute book for a 30-minute segment, and then they call and say, well, we've got a special meeting to go into and we can't come on today. They better start rearranging their schedule so they can talk to you and everyone else that's their constituent. I am fed up with the lack of really applying what they're supposed to be doing for us. They are away without leave and not doing their job.
Well, and here's the worst part of it all, too, is their voting record on constitutional issues is pathetic. I mean, it is pathetic. I can't believe these guys, they're under 50% on their supporting constitutional issues when they do vote.
Yeah.
And, I just think they need to take out the Constitution, read it again, because they're not obeying it, and that's a real problem. And, of course, it's not being taught in the schools, and these poor kids, I mean, I feel sorry for them in a way because they have no clue what made this country great. Our
Amen.
fathers, the sacrifices, they were all Christians, and we hear that they were all just a bunch of deists and so forth. They've done everything they can to destroy our culture and the background that made this country great.
Well, I'm going to tell you, hang on just a second, Adrian, because I'm involved in getting on, and I don't have the paper right here right now, but I think it's called 1776 Action. And what it is, it's a group of people that are starting to fight back, and they're going to the schools, and they're going to the universities, and they're demanding that our history be taught. And I don't care if I mean this when I say this, so bear with me just for a second. I do not care if George Washington was a slave owner or not. He was the father of our country and really helped America grow and prosper from its fledgling stages. At that time in history, slave ownership was a happenstance that was an occurrence that everybody was involved in. I'm not going to condemn something for that generational time. I am going to give praise to Washington and Lincoln and all the great presidents, and we're going to be starting a segment on this program. I am not going to back up for the woke generation. We're going to praise the people that helped build this country.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just watching a video yesterday from Wall Builders. It's David Barton. You've seen him on Glenn Beck and different places. He's absolutely has this new video He's actually at Independence Hall at Christ Church where these activities took place. But David Barton's been at this for years, and he's got the documentation to back it up, and I hope this new group is taking advantage of that, too. It's called Wall Builders.
Right.
Out of Alita, Texas.
I got to run. I got to get a weather forecast in and everything else, Adrian, and I got to give away my cookies for Monday morning. So God bless you and thank you for your call. Got to run. Thank you.
Looking hungry. Okay.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Thank you. We're going to give away some cookies right now. A dozen cookies to Sophie's Chatterbox at 530 East Street in Rupert, right on the square. What a fantastic bakery. What a fantastic restaurant. And if you're the lucky winner of the cookies to Sophie's Chatterbox, be sure and give them a call and let them know when you'll be in for those cookies. Remember the TV show, and it really was a hit. It was called The Waltons. Remember that TV show, The Waltons? What was the first name of the grandpa on The Waltons? What was Grandpa's first name on the TV series The Waltons? First person to call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587 with the right answer, and you're going to win the cookies. What was Grandpa's first name on the Waltons TV show? Give us a call, and you might be the... Whoa, that was quick. Good morning, you're on the air.
Zebulon.
Who is this?
Gary.
Gary Shoresman?
Yep.
Gary, I'll tell you what, you answered that far, far faster than I thought anybody would. Yes, it was the same as my name, Zeb. Actually, it was Zebulon, like you said. And Gary Shoresman, you are the cookie winner. And congratulations. Get a hold of Sophie's and let them know when you'll be in for your cookies.
Good, and you let me know when you're free, and I'll share them with you with some coffee.
I'll look forward to that. You call me, and we'll make plans after the program. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. God bless you. And, of course, our cookies provided by Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street in Rupert, right on the square. And it's right. It was Zebulon, or Zeb, Grandpa Zeb, on the Waltons. Thank you very much. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
My friend.
Hey, I heard an analogy what's going on at the border this weekend, and it just fits. It said when your bathtub's running over, you do need to start mopping, but first you need to turn off the water.
Amen. I heard the same thing.
Doesn't that fit it just right?
Well, and we got some feedback again, Sean. I know it's not your fault, but if you could, I'd sure appreciate it. I've had it. I mean, why should you and I be subjected as taxpayers to paying more money, and then the idiocy of what Governor Cuomo wanted to do in New York, and I know you've heard this, Doug. He wants to give a $15,000 check to illegals for living expenses. My goodness, we've got people that are living under bridges and living in cardboard boxes. Let's help our own citizens before we start tuning into the fact that we need to hand a check over to illegal aliens.
Exactly. And if we had some attorney generals, like this one in Idaho, I think he's missing in action.
Yeah, he didn't even put a uniform on as far as I'm concerned.
And our congressmen and our senators are the same way. But first off, the office of the presidency is to make sure the laws are upheld as written. He's the one that enforces the laws. He don't make them, but he enforces them. And if you pick and choose which laws you're going to enforce, he is not holding up to his oath of office. And every AG in every state should sue him for failure of duty. You know?
Well, many are. That's my whole point, Doug, and you know it's true. Many are because they've had it. And I asked the other day, I said, what about our illustrious Attorney General Wasden? Well, I'm sure that we probably won't hear anything from his office. But, you know, every Attorney General should look at the situation and say, you know what? The illegal aliens and the transportation and movement of them across the country is, underline the word is, going to affect every state in the United States.
Exactly, and when you break the law, you do something illegal, correct?
Supposedly.
When you come into the United States without permission, you are breaking the law.
Well, look at the two words. Look at the two words that the left wants us to have abolished. And I've taken heat over this, too. We've had some rather numb minds give me a call and criticize me when I say illegal aliens. Okay, they are illegal because they came into our country in illegal fashion, not legal fashion. And they are aliens because they are not citizens of the United States. Look the words up in the dictionary. You'll find out that they're very appropriate for what's going on. These people are illegal aliens.
That's a fact. That's a fact. But the way the left looks at it, if you keep telling a lie over and over and over, it eventually becomes the truth, they think.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It doesn't make it right if you change the terminology. I'm upset with our attorney generals, every state, and every sheriff should stand up and tell the governor if they want to send these illegal aliens into his county. Every sheriff should stand up and say no. And the sheriff can override a governor, can't they?
Well, I'm telling you right now that our sheriffs, with the power to tell the feds to back up, sit down in a chair, and listen to them, I agree with you that the power of our county sheriffs, our sheriffs in general, has got to start coming to the forefront. I think we have some excellent sheriffs in our state of Idaho. But the point is, going back to the attorney generals that you mentioned just a moment ago, I think that the states that started, I think there's like 34 or so attorney general right now that are signing on and suing Biden's administration. I would hope, and I put a call in, and I certainly hope they return my call, that Wasden will look at this and say, yes, I'm going to sign on for Idaho, but don't hold your breath.
No, don't hold your breath. I mean, they say they're Republican, they say they're conservative, but they sure don't act like it.
I just looked at the situation with the border this weekend where I listened to that one female Border Patrol agent, and she had tears welling up in her eyes and when interviewed, and she said, I don't know what to do. I don't know what more we can do. We are strapped. We don't have enough help. We don't have enough wherewithal. We don't have any other place to go with these people. We're just turning them loose. And ICE people that work for Immigration's Customs Enforcement, they're feeling the same way right now. This whole thing, I think, is a perpetrated reason to bring people into this country that eventually, you know as well as I do, will be given amnesty and then, of course, the right to vote.
Well, they've already been given the right to vote by the Democrat Party in this last election.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they done the mail-in ballots everywhere where you don't have to verify who you are or where you're from or where you live, and you just write in a ballot, that allows them to vote. And there have been cases of this last election where people have been brought up on voter fraud.
You know, Doug, when you start thinking about what's going on from the Georgia election laws and the stupidity and the anarchy that it's caused when a group of people, whether it was Rob Manfred with Major League Baseball as the commissioner, or whether it was jackass baying and braying of LeBron James from the NBA, or Stacey Abrams, or whomever it was, not reading and understanding the bill, it caused all this trouble with the All-Star game being moved to Colorado instead of Atlanta. And and Delaware, the home state of Joe Biden, their voting laws, I think ours are even more stringent than what Atlanta's and Georgia's was. I mean, the idiocy of these people and the downright stupidity of not being able to read and comprehend is amazing.
It is. It really is. And Denver's or Colorado's
Yeah.
voting laws are stricter than what Georgia's was. I mean, these guys, it is so political, and I like Herschel Walker, and I can't remember who the other guy was saying they're tired of sports being politicized. Sports
Amen.
is supposed to be entertainment and a getaway from life. Now it isn't. So baseball is going to suffer. I would love to see that All-Star game. I'd love to see only maybe 5,000 fans in the stadium.
At the most.
Yes, and I'd love to see hotels empty in Denver when they put on this All-Star game because nobody's going there to watch it.
I have questions.
Ratings in the toilet.
I have questions, though, about the players themselves, and I'm not trying to shield or shelter anyone, but I honestly think that the baseball players never really had a chance to vote on this. I think it was from above, the hierarchy of the pressure that was put on by people like LeBron James and people like Stacey Abrams and others to Rob Manfred, commissioner of Major League Baseball. I really don't think the baseball players are, quote-unquote, at fault for this stupidity.
No, they're not. And the ones who love America and love the game and love what America has given to them, when they're said that they could be in the All-Star game, if they say no thanks, we're not going.
Yeah.
Because of the political BS in it. And that would bring it home.
We've got so many troubles and worries right now with the border and then also with other events and problems. West Point is something else I was going to talk about this morning. Our military academies are being forced to teach critical race theory. Did you know that?
Yes.
And they're teaching whites that you are at fault. You're evil. And I'm sitting there watching this news story the other day on television about West Point, and I'm thinking, wow, this is great to teach about the evils of race when you're in a foxhole and protecting each other's back. You sometimes wonder if your back will be protected.
I mean, it's terrible. That's how you tear a country down.
Yep, and they're doing a job. Got to run.
You divide it, and if we had a governor and an attorney general that was worth their salt, they would do like DeSantis did in Florida and say, we are not teaching that in our schools.
Well, it better not come here to Idaho, and it better not be here in Magic Valley. I will absolutely exhaust every effort I can to damn the school board and the administration if they take it up.
Well, I think everybody in Idaho, here in southern Idaho, need to call their school board and say, hey, is this going to be part of the curriculum? If it is, you guys are out.
Amen.
You're gone.
Amen. I got to run, Doug. Please give us your great words of wisdom about our seniors, and then I've got a gallop.
Hey, everybody, you know, our senior citizens built this country. We are reaping the benefits of their sweat and their labor, and they need our help. There's people that are shut in that can't get out, that need Meals on Wheels, and that's the only people they get to see every day most of the time.
Yep.
So do what you can, donate what you can, volunteer, but go there and eat and leave with a full tummy and a full heart.
Love it. Yeah, great job, Doug. Great job. Thank you very much. Hey, don't forget Barry Equipment and Rental Sales, Service, and Parts, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Napa location. They have got all the big dudes, the Doosan wheel loaders and excavators, all the bobcats, all the trenchers, all the scissor lifts for all the lifting and digging and the pushing and the carrying. I'm telling you what, they've got absolutely phenomenal low-rate financing to buy and excellent lease rates. You better check it out today at Barry Equipment and Rental. Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. Believe me, they've got the equipment that you need to finish the job. There you go. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to talk to you just for a little bit right after the weather forecast about the Keystone Pipeline and the people that are just absolutely destitute because of Joe Biden's executive order. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Right now, the weather forecast brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And believe me, they provide the best practices and technology for your hearing health. Absolutely. Get a hold of them today and make an appointment. 312-0957. That number again, 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, right behind the Minidoka County Hospital, across from the emergency room. You call them today. And right now, here's Gina with the forecast.
Enjoy today, but more spring-like weather is in the forecast. Here is a look at your weather. For today, sunny skies. We are expecting a high right around 55. Tonight, increasing clouds, low of 32. Tomorrow, partly sunny. It is going to be breezy, high of 56. Winds could gust as high as 32 miles an hour. By Tuesday night, rain and snow showers are a possibility in the overnight hours. We are expecting a low of 32. Then a 60% chance of rain and snow for Wednesday. Winds are going to be picking up as well, and we are expecting a high of 47. That's look at your weather for Zebeth.
Ooh, old man Winter has not left yet. He's got his suitcase packed, but he hasn't left the house. Anyway, our weather brought to you by our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And each plan is customized for the patient's individual needs. I urge you to get a hold of them. They help me. They can help you at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, 312-0957. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I was watching a story that was on Fox News, and it was about the folks connected to the Keystone Pipeline and how literally their lives, their future, their jobs, their income, everything was canceled with the stroke of a pen by Joe Biden in January. And remember what he said, and some of these other buffoons said that are involved in government, John Kerry, etc. Oh, well, they can go to work with all the green jobs that are going to be provided. Wait a minute. All the green jobs that are provided? Wait a minute. If these people and their families, with the stroke of a stupid signature, ended their careers in January, here it is April, and these families have no income coming in, no green jobs, none. Some of these people were fortunate enough to qualify for unemployment. Many have not. They're losing everything. They're losing their homes. They're losing their cars. They're losing everything that they've put money into as good American citizens trying to make the best for their family. All with a stupid stroke of the pen by this president to cancel out the Keystone Pipeline and create the war on fossil fuels. They don't have any money for living expenses. They don't have any money coming in at all. And yet you had the stupidity of statements, well, they can go to work in the green energy sector. Where are those jobs? I'm asking you, somebody call me and tell me, where are those jobs for these people? And at the same time, and I've mentioned this already this morning, you have absolute, complete buffoons like Cuomo in New York State that want to offer a living expense check for illegal aliens. And we've got American citizens sitting there worrying about their kids, worrying about where they're going to get their food, worrying about how they're going to pay for their clothing, how they're going to provide shelter. This is insanity. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning again. When you talk about the stroke of a pen, President Trump, when he became president, he used that wisely, I thought. He didn't do all these frivolous things. But Joe Biden, the first thing he did when he got there was to get his pen out and just start doing it. He didn't listen to the people. He didn't listen to the Congress. He didn't listen to the Senate. He just took his pen in hand and started destroying America.
When I saw the misery and the tears and the furrowed brows of these people, men and women and their kids and everything, not knowing where the next meal is going to come from or how it's going to be paid for, when they were doing very well as contributing members to our society and tax-paying citizens, and now they have nothing, and all to just absolutely have a war on energy and the perpetration of green energy, which is the dumbest. I don't care who the person is, whether it's Biden, whether it's Kerry, it doesn't make any difference who's out there perpetrating green energy. It is absolutely one of the dumbest things that will never stand alone. Green energy can never stand alone and support and provide the electrical grid that we need for this country. I don't care who's going to argue that. They are wrong.
Let's just use common sense. That's what our nation needs to do, especially our do-nothing politicians.
Common sense is easy to say, but when you have an agenda like the Biden and Harris administration that is perpetrated with the George Soroses behind the scenes, when you have an agenda, common sense goes out the window.
Well, it really upsets me the way these major corporations and we, the people, have made them what they are.
Yeah.
And now they're turning against us.
Well, the major corporations, whether it's Coca-Cola or any one of them, are absolutely hell-bent on the liberal side. Keith, I appreciate your call. Thank you again. Outstanding points of interest. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, sir. One other little story I wanted to get in, part of this idiotic infrastructure bill, and I'm going to be talking about this with Rick Manning at about 9:06 this morning. Infrastructure, roads, bridges, highways, freeways, etc. Yeah, it sounds good. But only 5% or less of the trillions and trillions of dollars in this infrastructure bill is going to go towards infrastructure. But a lot of it is social engineering. A lot of it is social engineering to socially adjust. Listen to those two key words. Socially adjust, like our suburbs in America. Maybe the suburbs around Boise or suburbia around Salt Lake City or whatever. You know, you want to get a little ways out of town, you buy an acre or two, put a house on it, and you just want to enjoy a little bit of the country lifestyle with your neighbors, etc. Au contraire. Now the Biden administration, they want to look at the suburbs with part of the money from the infrastructure bill and create, housing projects for low-income or no-income families to be put in the middle of your suburbia. Oh, okay. Sounds good, doesn't it? And then you end up in the middle of a time bomb. It just seems like you can't live where you want to live and reside in peaceful harmony, and the government wants to come in and manufacture more problems for you, Mr. Taxpayer. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Our major sponsor, our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh boy, they're having a big spring tire sale on right now. Don't forget to stop in and check out all the tires, all the sizes, all the tread designs for all the vehicles, and save money. And by the way, don't forget, farmers and dairymen and everything, Don't forget that if you have a breakdown, flat tires, whatever, they've got service trucks. Zip, zip, zip. They'll be right there to take care of your problems. Absolutely. Service is the name of the game. The best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts and batteries, all of this and more with James and Buell. Dan on Pole Line in Twin Falls, Lane in Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, the Twist family in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, you've got 1 minute exactly, and I'm going to have to cut you off. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yes. How many of these housing projects are going to go at Camp David and Nancy Pelosi's neighborhood and up in the Hamptons where Obama, no, it's going to go in middle-class America to tear middle-class America down.
Yep, absolutely. And the havoc and the absolute anarchy that's going to follow by doing this and demanding this is going to be something that we're not going to be able to overcome.
Exactly. If they want to do that, let's tell them to lead by example.
Yep.
Put them up in your neighborhoods. And these people that say, well, the rich don't pay enough taxes, I never seen a line on the tax form where it says, do you think you paid enough? If you answer no, then write in the amount you think you should pay and send it in.
Amen. But this forced changing of how we live and where we live and what we want to do where we live is absolute socialism. I got to run, Doug. I'm late running. Thank you. We're going to take a little break right now and go to the news, and we'll be back in 7 minutes with Rick Manning. Don't go away. Oh, boy. If it's not one thing, it's 37 others. Good morning. Zeb at the Ranch on a Monday, April the 12th. And, of course, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. All locations serving you with right now a great big spring tire sale. You be sure and stop in and save money today. Along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's hear this good word for our friends at Western Way Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're all at your disposal. Western Way Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Way Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Way Services.
It's true. Western Way Services always at your disposal. I urge you to get on the route service. Give them a call, 734-6969, and say, please come get my garbage. And they'll get you on the route service, and you'll be a happy camper. Western Way Services, 734-6969. You get a hold of them today. Want to also give a great big shout out to our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. We're going to be over there this afternoon talking to Nick and Josh and Jeff and everybody else. A great staff of very, very knowledgeable physical therapists to help you get back to being you. If you're recouping from an accident or surgery, whatever the problem, they can and they will help you. Please make an appointment today. Call the number 678-1191. I'll repeat it, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. The best serving you. Also, a quick reminder about our dear friends over at Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert with Joel Heward, family and staff, serving you and your family at a very tumultuous time when there's the passing of a loved one. And they always provide the customers they serve with the best possible support and comfort. Please remember the number, 436-5636, Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. And all the while holding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity, working for you. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert. And Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Well, Mondays mean I get a chance to talk to a dear friend that I wished I could talk more during the week because there's so many issues right now. It's kind of a potpourri, a grab bag of where we're going to talk about the first issue, and that's, of course, with President of Americans for Limited Government, Rick Manning. God bless you. Good morning. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me, Zeb. I'm always happy to be on. It's a great way for me to be able to get my week started and get my brain going, so I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to tax you a little bit this morning because I'm going to lump everything into a great big bag, and I'm going to let you draw out what you want to talk about. I mean, I am so incensed as to what this Biden administration is trying to do to upset America with this infrastructure program. I mean, I got to ask you, in the infrastructure program, are many, many millions, close to trillions of dollars for social engineering and changing the way we live or how we live, especially into the suburbs with maybe now new housing authorities, etc. I am livid that this land of the free is no longer the land of the free.
Well, the Biden infrastructure bill is at its most generous is 25% traditional infrastructure. But when you're just doing roads and bridges, it's between 6 and 9%. They're talking about spending up to $4 trillion on this. To put that into perspective, that is just a little bit shy of the entire budget for the United States government for 2020. So it's actually for 2020, it was about that. Of course, we spent way more than that, but that's a different story. So they're essentially doubling for this project alone. Not talking 1.9 trillion before. For infrastructure alone, they're essentially doubling the U.S. budget with this one piece of legislation. And so I wanted to put perspective in terms of how much money that is, because it's a lot. It's just a huge, inconceivable amount of money that and it's so much money that most people can't get their arms around it. So first of all, they're talking about insane amounts of money. Second of all, they're talking about money being spent on everything from child care to it is across the board. Every liberal wish list item is all getting funded, from the Green New Deal to taking over really taking over all control of our local schools. It is such an enormous, and if I were in the left wing, I'd say ambitious attempt to completely reformulate the relationship between Americans and their federal government, that it's breathtaking. Now, and so it's that big that, and everything has strings. So it's dangerous. It is perhaps the most dangerous piece of legislation to ever be put forward in the history of the United States, because the federal government will subsume everything else if this legislation passes. And so it is, and it hits every aspect of our lives. And of course, what the Biden administration is attempting to do internationally is they want to raise corporate income taxes, which people might say, I don't care about corporations, but of course, you get to pay the increased prices, increased costs because prices get passed along. But beyond the increased corporations, taxes on corporations, they're trying to go internationally. Mm-hmm. And Treasury Secretary Yellen is attempting to cut a deal with the top 20 economies in the world where they will set a minimum tax rate for corporations, with the idea that they want to trap corporations as opposed to being able to move their money around offshore, which is, in many respects, it's logical, but once again, we're going to end up with an international tax code out of this, is what she's trying to do. And an international tax code says the following. It says that it doesn't matter who you vote for Congress. It doesn't matter who you vote for Senate. It doesn't matter who you vote for president, because they, if Yellen has her way and Congress allows this to happen, they would have almost no say in terms of what taxes would be for corporations, because if you can't lower, if you cannot have a set of rate lower than a certain amount, then Congress has effectively dealt themselves out of having one of the primary functions under Article 1 to be able to determine the taxes in this country. And so there's a constitutional challenge that would exist with that, as with a lot of this stuff. But I don't know what the courts are going to do. Anybody wants to guess what the courts will do on any given issue is braver than I am. I think I have a better chance of hitting the winner on betting on the Masters than I do on betting on what the courts are going to do. But so this is a wholesale assault on America. And quite honestly, I haven't given it as much attention as I should, because it's so massive, and there's so many other fights that are right in my lap right now, that I have not spent the time, energy, and effort to dig into it as deeply on specifics as I should. But you are right to be concerned. You are right to be outraged. And I just want to say, every single person, Mitt Romney, who went around and said, I'm not voting for Trump, I want to impeach Trump, we have to do better, I don't like his tweets, I don't like the way he handles things. For every single person who thought, well, I know Joe Biden, it's all going to be okay, he's a moderate, trust me, he's a moderate. For every single one of those people, I have a simple two-word thing that I want to say to them. Shut up. You voted for this. You attacked the president. The only choice between what we have right now and what we had, you decided that what we had wasn't good enough because your ego was hurt. I don't want to hear your complaints about anything that Biden's doing. I want you to vote against them, but just shut up, because you brought this on us.
Rick, I really was depressed, and I'm not trying to be theatrical. I really was depressed listening to the news this weekend and taking notes for my program when I hear that racism is more prominent than ever. The CDC, Center for Disease Control, has said that racism is the top health issue in this country. And I'm sitting here, and my wife and I were talking about this while it was on the television. Racism has only been brought prominently to the forefront because of the liberal Democrats and now the liberal administration of the Biden and Harris administration. And it just absolutely seems like they've put it in the forefront. They're creating more of a racist blackout or blacklisting in this country and divisions that can never heal. Am I wrong? I don't remember this being this severe and this absolutely devastating, even as less as 12, 13 months ago as it is right now.
No, they're definitely stoking racism. They're attempting to create a war. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to create a justification to take away people's firearms. They're trying to take justification for going after individuals who shoot at gun clubs and the like, and creating a whole rationalization saying, anybody who ever supported Donald Trump is a danger and needs to be re-educated. That's what they're trying to do. Now, let me tell you what outrages me about that more than anything. This is the same agency that is supposed to be dealing with things like COVID, right? And has been wrong every single time for an entire year. I guess because they can't actually deal with real diseases, with actual diseases, they now have to go and make up something. It's the same agency that was prohibited until last year, maybe it was a year and a half ago, from getting involved in guns, but then suddenly, they got refunded. That Pelosi made it so they could investigate gun violence as a public health crisis. So now they're doing racism as a public health crisis, and you know what? They're not good at diseases. Okay, they're not good at diseases. If the CDC had walked through and had led us through the pandemic and had been right occasionally on the pandemic and hadn't constantly shifted between masks, no masks, triple masks, and the like, they had been actually leaders and healthcare leaders and had not discouraged any treatments on COVID because, gee whiz, we want to depend on a vaccine, which they then said couldn't happen, and hadn't been such essentially. What the CDC has become is a societal control mechanism. The only answer to COVID they can come up with is let's all cower in our homes. We have to follow the science. We have to flatten the curve. And the science never had anything to do. They never followed the science. The science was pseudoscience saying the only way to deal with this is not through treatment, it's through hiding in our basements. And no matter what the damage being done to our economies, to our psychological health, and the like, no matter the increase in suicide, no matter the increase in drug addiction, no matter the increase in alcoholism, all that stuff didn't matter. The CDC said, hide in your basement, we don't want to actually have treatments.
I just don't know what to do. As a radio talk show host, and I'm blessed to have people like you that are so well aware of all these various topics and information to my audience, and it goes from one thing to the next. One of the other issues I wanted to ask you about this morning is I am not ashamed of who I am. I am not ashamed of what I am. But now with this critical race theory that is being taught in our schools and even at West Point Military Academy, white people are being subdued and subjected to criticism and told that they are the enemy, etc. Where is all this going to head, Rick? My goodness, I know you have a comment on this.
They are trying to reorient America. They're trying to create. They know that they cannot win unless they create a massively increased amount of white guilt. And what they're doing right now at West Point and the military as a whole is the most dangerous part of this, because they're the ones who are going to have to go after people with the guns. So what they're doing is they're creating a psychological framework which was justified that the people who are white, by virtue of their whiteness, are racist and hence are not eligible for the same rights and privileges that Americans have, because after all they have abused those privileges over time and are evil as a result. So that's the training they're giving. If you want to get right down to it, this exact training is what's causing a lot of the corporations to be so stupid, and is what caused Major League Baseball to move the All-Star game from a 51% black city to a 10% white black city, all under the guise of trying to engage in some kind of racial justice, because there's no rationale to it, there's no truth to it. It is attempting to create divisions and hatred within our country, and it's basically the Marxist imperative, and they're carrying it out. So, having said that, can I talk about something I think is really good?
Absolutely.
This is positive.
Absolutely.
This is depressing me, so I want to talk about something positive. For a lot of months on your air, I've been talking about the need for state and local people and legislators in Idaho to really take charge and start trying to fight back on the education curriculum, and really start trying to make certain that we reject the leftist curriculum. And I do not know if they won or they lost. I was trying to find out before the show, and I wasn't able to find it. But there was a fight in Boise. There was a fight over the future of Idaho. There were a lot of legislators, state legislators, and the governor who were willing to stand up and say to the education complex, no, we're going to change the curriculum in our colleges. We're not going to allow you to destroy the minds of the young people of Idaho. And they fought it on the budget, which is exactly the right thing to do. This is such a quantum shift change and such a bold thing to do. It's something I've been advocating being done all over the country to states that are dead red states, because if they don't, they're going to die. Those states are going to die because the leftist culture will eventually take over for two reasons. One, you educate your own children to hate yourself. But secondly, the problem with being a nice place to live, where freedom is encouraged, is people who don't live in nice places where freedom is discouraged tend to move there, and many of those people bring their ideas that they're moving away from to your city, to your state, and as a result, you get Californicated, and you end up getting crushed. That is what happens. So you've got a problem, and your state legislature took it up. Your state legislator created an environment where they fought a battle. I do not know if they won or not, but gosh, it was so good to see, so encouraging to see state legislators fighting for the actual interests of the people they represent. And it's something we've talked about on this air for months, maybe years, about the need to happen in Idaho. And I just want to praise the fact that the people have obviously been heard, because those legislators have stood up. And win or lose, those legislators who stood up and fought need to be praised. And and that's a positive, because that's where we're going to win this. We're going to win at the state level. There are states all over this country that are pushing back on election laws, on the education system, on the taxes, on a whole variety of different areas that the federal government is overreaching on. And that's where we're going to win, because that's where the people have the powers in the state and local governments. And that's why what Idaho's legislature did, the fight they had last week, was so important. And so that is a positive. And we get wrapped up in the federal stuff. And truthfully, there's little good news on the federal level. But when we have some good news at the local level, the state and local level, we need to talk about, we need to praise those people.
And your point is so well taken, and I'm very appreciative of the way you said this. But, on a state and local level, you said on quite a few programs ago that we need to direct our energy at changing how things are throughout our state, so they can start wagging their finger at the federal government and saying, hey, listen to us now. We're the states, and we're going to tell you a little bit, a thing or two. I agree with you wholeheartedly that states absolutely need to stand tall, stand firm, especially now with this Biden administration on the intrusion of our Constitution.
Yeah, absolutely, and and those state legislators get empowered by the people.
Yes,
because what we're seeing is that the traditional power structures in the state capitol are you've got the Chamber of Commerce on one side, you've got the environmentalists and unions on the other side, and, real people kind of don't always there's not a lot of lobbyists for real people. Truthfully, that's the biggest problem in the system, is real people don't have lobbyists. This doesn't make lobbying bad. I was one, and I lobbied Congress, although not enough that I have to declare, but I do contact Congress, tell them what I think we ought to do, and that's my job. So I'm not going to disparage that. But the truth of the matter is, the average person doesn't have somebody there, by and large, looking at every bill saying, this is bad, this is good, this is why. And telling people, hey, you have to get involved on this, this, and this, because there's nobody to pay people to do that. But I will tell you, Zeb, people have had enough, and people standing up and telling their state legislators that they don't care what the Chamber of Commerce says. They care that the state legislators be the lobbyist for the people. Okay, that's kind of what you elect them to do.
Absolutely,
and it's really, really important that people continually communicate with your state legislators. And human nature is we only communicate with state legislators or congressmen when we're mad at them or mad about something. But the fact is, it isn't just positive reinforcement really, really matters, because nobody does it. Because nobody does positive reinforcement. If you call up and say thank you for something they've done, something they've fought for that you wanted them to fight for, even if they lose, that positive is so much more powerful than the constant haranguing about what's going wrong.
Absolutely.
And it is and so use positive reinforcement. Psychologically, use positive reinforcement wherever possible, because that will embolden these guys to fight harder and to fight bigger battles.
Amen.
And that's what we need. We need bold state legislators. We need bold governors. We need bold members of Congress. We need a bold judiciary. We need to be bold in the things that we do, because the other side has dreams that effectively negate America.
Amen.
And if we're not bold in our opposition, we're not bold in our ideas, not bold in our vision for what America is and what America should be, if we're not making that point clear to everybody, that bold vision, then we have ceded the playing field to the left, and we will lose.
Absolutely. I wished I had more time. I enjoy this man and his opinions and thought. Rick Manning, President of Americans for Limited Government. I say this every week, and we mean it. God bless you, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zeb. Appreciate it, and look forward to talking again next week.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Really knows his stuff. Rick Manning with the Americans for Limited Government. Thank you very much. I am running a little bit late, and I'm going to quickly tell everybody about Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Todd and the rest of the staff, absolutely with the best of life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, and so much more. They are dedicated and responsive to your needs. All you need to do is just give them a call, make an appointment, 436-4424. Believe me, they are devoted to serving you. 436-4424, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Quick reminder, don't forget all the new menu choices at Denny's Restaurant. America's Diner at 611 North Overland in Burley. Oh, my goodness, they've got delicious Super Slam breakfast, and they've got a new signature dessert called the Skookie. It's warm chocolate chip cookie filled with molten chocolate and topped with vanilla ice cream and salted caramel. Knock your boots off delicious at Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, and it is America's Diner. Right now, let's go back to the phone line right now with our next guest, and he's going to be on a little bit of a vacation, touring on his bike. Good morning, Frosty Woldridge. How are you?
Well, good morning, Zeb. And I want to echo what Rick Manning said, that you need to be bold. I think this time in history, every American citizen, every man and woman, every voter that loves this country, you do need to be bold. You need to get into the office and talk to your House member there in the Congress. You certainly need to get down to your two senators and give them your thoughts, give them your solutions, and be firm that you don't want to have what's going on essentially like on the southern border right now, and that you want them to do their job. And I do this regularly with my two senators and my House member. I'm bold with them. And Rick Manning said it. The only way that we change America for the better is that we participate, because a republic, this is a constitutional republic, and it is not a spectator sport. And too many people think it's all going to work out on its own. Well, the fact is, as Rick Manning said, it's only going to work out if you take action and you are bold. And I just want to echo that. So it was a pleasure to I've read him and I've followed him over the years, and he's one of those Americans that really can make this country better. And we really need to take action, just like he said.
You know, I'm so glad you stated that about Rick. He's been a dear friend of mine for many, many years on this program, along with yourself, and very well versed in all the situations that are going on. But right now, Frosty, he made an excellent point a few moments ago when he said, you know, there is so much going on in front of the American public today that it's so depressing. You kind of don't know where to look first. I mean, whether the left hook's going to knock you out or if you're going to get decked with a right cross. It seems like no matter where we turn with this Biden administration, there is some new evil that we have to overcome.
You know, actually, at church yesterday, I attend church on Sundays, and our reverend made a point. He was at a conference, and in the evening, it snowed, and it snowed about 10 inches. And as he got up in the morning, he had the idea of taking his snow scraper and his brush and taking 50 cars of all his fellow attendees and going ahead and wiping off all the snow on their cars just as a gesture of kindness. And then he thought, well, then maybe somebody won't like that, and somebody will worry about getting their car scratched and all sorts of things. So he went from the energy of doing something positive to the depression of, oh my gosh, what if I do something bad? And I have to tell, and I think you all know, I have, over a lifetime of 74 years, since I was 6 years old, I think, my dad always said, leave a place nicer than you found it. In other words, pick up the trash. And over the last 65 years of my life, as a trash picker-upper, I've picked up over 1 million pieces of trash around the planet. In my scuba diving, I've been on trash pickups underwater, and because I care, and that's the positive side. And at the same time, I realize that there are millions and millions of more people out there throwing more trash, and all the million pieces of trash that I've picked up really haven't made any difference. But it made a difference to me, and it made a difference to leave the place a little nicer than I found it, just like my dad taught me. So whether it's Rick Manning urging you to get bold, or it's Frosty Wooldridge picking up some trash. In fact, yesterday I picked up along I-70, I picked up 4 bags of trash and quite a bunch of cardboard that's been left over for the winter because people throw their trash. And those truckers, I'd really like to kick their butts. They throw their pee bottles out, and I have to take my plastic gloves on and then empty the pee bottle and then throw the pee bottle into my bag. And then I take it off to the Dempsey dumpster. That's just something I personally do. And so the key here is you can get positive or you can get negative. And this is your country. And as you all know, my latest book is out, America's Overpopulation Predicament, Blindsiding Future Generations. I want to give our future generations a chance to have a vibrant, thriving, and positive society. And sometimes that means I have to write columns like my latest one is anyone angry about Biden's inviting invasion of our borders? That's based on a letter that was received by me over the weekend about somebody from Texas. Her name is Sherry, and she's really upset because Biden's allowing the invasion of our country, and we're paying for it, and nobody's doing anything about it, and he has all the power. You can get really depressed about that. At the same time, though, like Rick Manning says, you've got to be bold. Everybody listening to this broadcast today, have you called your senators, your 2 senators, and your House member? In fact, it's Governor Kim I forget her last name. She's the governor of Iowa. She just told the Biden administration, we are not taking any more of, her name is Kim Reynolds, Governor Kim Reynolds of Iowa. We will not take any migrants. They are Biden's problem. What if every governor of every state needs to repeat that? And what if they did? And what if they did because you called the governor's office? And that's what I've done with Polis here in my state. You have got to take action. So today, get on the phone, write a letter saying that we don't want this massive invasion of our country. And then when you do that, then you're going to fulfill what Rick Manning talked today, and you're going to be essentially picking up the trash like I pick up the trash. But in this case, you're telling your senators and House members and your governor, enough is enough. We don't want our country invaded by all these children. That they're not our responsibility. They are the responsibility of the countries where they were born and where they are growing up, and the parents. And if they want to have something happen in Nicaragua, or they want to have something happen in El Salvador or in Panama or all of those countries, the citizens of those countries have to take action, and we are not responsible for them. And I think you've got to stand up and speak out and be bold, as Rick Manning said.
Let me ask you something, Frosty. You've traveled all over the world, literally, and over at the office, Sean, we got a little feedback here, please. But have you ever, in your 74 years, I have not in my 73, seen a total walk away, turn your back on the problem attitude that the Biden and Harris administration is showing towards the border? They will not go. They will not address the border. They will not address the border problems. And your first line of your latest story was absolutely the way to say it. Did the American people vote to make this country the babysitter for the rest of the world? Question mark. And this administration is doing nothing to help us, the citizens.
And the reason that's going on is because there is not enough of an uproar. There's a book out by Malcolm Gladwell that I've written, that I've read, and it's called Tipping Point. And it means that the only thing that changes is when the bottom part of the country, that's you and me, the average American citizen, stands up and speaks out and really gets rowdy, if you will, by communicating to the leaders who are elected representatives who are supposed to carry your wishes, not their wishes. And they're supposed to take action, especially Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution. It says it right there. They're supposed to guard us against invasion by a foreign entity. Well, guess what? We're being invaded right now at our borders. And so you have to start this tipping point. We need a critical mass of people to get upset enough to call into 60 Minutes. You all have 60 Minutes. You can all write a letter to 60 Minutes. It's 60m@cbsnews.com. I mean, how simple is it for 100,000 people today listening to this program across the country to write into 60 Minutes? Get on Facebook. Write into Face the Nation and Meet the Press. Leave your comments. That's how you create a tipping point, and that's how you force somebody like Biden, who is completely out of touch with reality right now. I mean, Joe Dementia or Joe Senility, that's what he is. He's not capable of leading this country out of this situation. He's letting this thing happen. In fact, he invited this invasion of our borders, and now we're paying for it. Did you know that it was on 60 Minutes? We're paying $60 million a month. Is now being allocated for all these housing and feeding of these kids and their parents. And they're taking no responsibility whatsoever. You have got to be a part of this tipping point. You have to start communicating, and you've got all the Facebook pages. I'm all over Facebook literally every week on Face the Nation, Meet the Press. I go to NPR. That's what you can do, too. And that's how you create this tremendous average American tipping point, and that's the key.
Your articles are very poignant and so well written, like this one, is anyone angry about Biden's inviting an invasion of our borders? But, you know, I keep thinking, and I don't mean to keep backtracking, but when you think about what's going on or not going on with the border situation right now, and it's right now as we speak, literally thousands of people are planning on coming across the border illegally. This administration is just turning a deaf ear and a blind eye to this and basically ignoring the problem, and we the people don't seem to have any power to make them do something.
Well, as long as we don't do anything like, again, be bold, like Rick Manning said, and that's what's happening. You have to understand that most Americans are going to work today. They're dealing with their family, their paycheck, their bills, their homes, their kids, the schooling, the pandemic, and all that goes with that. And so the border is literally thousands of miles away for most Americans. I've been on the border 6 times now in the last 20 years, and I guarantee you that border is getting closer to your community because, again, the U.S. Border Patrol, from my last column last week, states that there are going to be about 1 million illegals coming across that border this year. They're on course to have over 1 million. And that's extraordinary. 1 million. That's like back in the 1990s when they were pouring across the borders. They were just plane loads coming. And so, again, if you, the American people, don't say anything and you don't do anything, pretty soon those border crossers are going to be at your welfare office. They're going to be at your Section 8 HUD housing. They're going to be robbing your stores. They're going to be shoplifting everything in your city, and they're going to be slumming it and homeless all over the place and begging for money and robbing and rape, you name it. You're going to see the dregs of humanity manifest in your town. And that's what's coming. Now, if you're a small enough town, there's not that many can get to you. That's fine. But go to Los Angeles, or go to Baltimore, or go to Chicago, or go to Detroit, or go here in Denver. We've got probably 300 to 400,000 illegal aliens in Denver and across Colorado right now. They're just tearing up our schools. They're eating up our food. They're robbing. They're shoplifting. They've got COVID. You name it. At some point, every one of us, every one of you listening to this broadcast will absolutely be affected by this invasion of our country.
And you know, in a related subject, I was watching, and I've got to share this with you in case you didn't see it, I was watching a study of the Keystone Pipeline workers that were told in January that their work was done and their jobs were terminated and they had no income, no way to pay the bills, the mortgage, or buy the kids new shoes or clothes, nothing. And they were told, well, just go get a green energy job. Well, there are no Biden green energy jobs. And these people are starving to death and losing everything they own. And at the same time, and I'm tying this together for you, the state of New York with Cuomo, they're thinking about providing $15,000 to illegal immigrants to live in the state of New York, while our own citizens are starving and losing everything. This is insanity.
I will again repeat, and I will echo everything you say. Yes, 540,000 certified homeless people in our country right now, and Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters and AOC and right on down the line are doing absolutely nothing to solve those problems. And yet the border is being overrun. Again, I've seen the border. I've seen the layup areas. I've seen the tons and hundreds of tons of trash that they bring, and they're now literally creating the same kind of ghettos in our country and the same kind of consequences in our country as in their own countries. And again, we're all going to be affected by this. And again, it has to be each and every one of us as Americans screaming at the top of our lungs, if that means that. But you have got to get a hold of your TV stations. You've got to get a hold of your Facebook people. You've got to get on Meet the Press, Face the Nation, NPR. You write personal letters, if you want, I've got all of the addresses for all of the top TV and radio hosts in the country. If you want, just email me, frostyw@juno.com, and I will send you those addresses, and you can dig in right now and create this tipping point. And that's all I know you can do, because if you don't do that, then again, as I've said, those are all victims of their situations in Central and South America. But guess what? If they keep coming, we're going to be the victims of their situation all across our country. And that's why we need to stand up and speak out now, because once another million of these illegals come across our borders with no jobs, no education, no ability to function in our society, there are a problem, and we get to be the victims because we're going to be paying for all of this.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a comment. Quickly, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you for putting me on. You know, a lot of our problems are caused because a lot of these homeless people are dope addicts, and our government is giving them more dope. We're creating more problems by doing that. The people that come across the border are made dope addicts because we're abusing them. We're letting the drug people or the cartel get them hooked on that stuff They're raping the kids. They're destroying their minds mentally. And we're allowing this to go on, and we're feeding the problem. We aren't, but our government is, and we are our government. It just makes me sick to my stomach to think what's going on in Seattle and Portland and California and several other states right now, feeding the drug problem. We need to correct that. We need to stop it dead in its tracks and do away with it. We do not need to be giving anybody, for any reason ever, dope to keep them going and happy. All it does is make them worthless, wasted time people that will not work, that will not improve their life themselves. I'll shut up. You have a wonderful day. May the Lord bless.
Jerry, thank you. Frosty, respond, please.
Well, that's exactly right. And this is a fact, ladies and gentlemen, fellow American citizens. We could stop the $120 billion a year drug crossings coming into our country every year, year after year, addicting our kids by simply putting the National Guard with weapons,
yes,
with towers, literally, or just regular tents along the 1,952-mile border with Mexico, and stop the drug trade. That would stop this massive $120 billion a year. It would stop the MS-13 gangs and all of their networks throughout our big cities. And the President of the United States could have done that the last time, but he didn't. And this president is never going to do it. And so our kids are becoming the victims. And I don't know if anybody knows this, but we lose 80,000 a year from drug overdoses in this country. 80,000 productive lives that could have been productive are absolutely destroyed because of overdoses and because of the drug trade. And that's brought to you by the U.S. Congress. They're not doing a doggone thing about it. The presidents aren't doing it. The presidents haven't been doing it for the last 6 presidents. And here's one in my latest column. This is the crisis we're facing. In 2021, Central America, where all these people are flooding into our country, houses 181 million people. But the demographic projections show that Central America is going to grow to 223 million within 29 years by 2050. That's another 42 million desperate people. And here's the other kicker. In South America right now, where there's starvation dominates in Venezuela, Colombia, and throughout the region in South America, there are a total of 433 million people. Okay? But by 2050, which is 29 years from now, the demographic projections are that they're going to hit 779 million people. In other words, that's an added 346 million people. And totally, Central and South America, 488 million more people heading to America for a better life. Does anybody listening to this broadcast think that we're going to survive all those desperate people fleeing their hunger, fleeing whatever's going on in their region to make our borders? And are we going to survive that many people? And of course the answer is we're not going to survive that.
No.
So either we take action now. The tipping point is created by your input, by your calling and writing and getting this thing to become absolute. There's no way they can escape it. Even the mainstream press, whether it's Jake Tapper or whether it's Jonathan Karl or whether it's any of Anderson Cooper, this crisis is going to be so overwhelming that they can't even avoid it. And it has to do with you communicating your frustrations, your exasperations, and your anger, but also your logic and your boldness to move this issue to the forefront. Because if you don't, guess what? By 2050, all this mess is going to be manifesting on your children, and your children don't deserve to have what's coming. And it's coming if we don't change course.
Frosty, I've only got 30 seconds. Real quick, you're going to be leaving on a bike trip. Give me a short answer as to where you're going, how long you're going to be gone.
Okay, I'm going to be gone Sedona, Arizona. Sandy and I just, I'm so intense about all that's happening. And in my book, you have a copy in the mail right now, America's Overpopulation Predicament, Blindsiding Future Generations. I'm taking this about 2.5 weeks off, but I'll be back in May, and we'll get together before I take off for the summer. And the key is I talk to a lot of people, and I'll be talking to them in Arizona and getting their feel. And hopefully, again, we come up with solutions, we come up with boldness, like Rick Manning said, and we make this issue the premier issue of 2021. And that's my goal. And so I'll be talking to you in about 3 weeks.
God bless you, Frosty Woolridge, Golden, Colorado, my dear friend. Thank you so much, and bike carefully, my friend. Thank you very much.
Always. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Frosty. And right now, caller, I'm sorry, I just flat am out of time. I've got to go to the weather forecast. And the weather brought to you by Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And they are the professionals when it comes to accounting services to you, your family, and your business for the entirety of the Mini-Cassia area and beyond for over 50 years. The best of tax return preparation, tax planning, financial statement preparation, retirement planning, all of this and more with 2 offices to serve you. One in Burley, one in Rupert. Don't forget the professionals serving you. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the forecast.
Enjoy today, but more spring-like weather is in the forecast. Here is a look at your weather. For today, sunny skies. We are expecting a high right around 55. Tonight, increasing clouds, low of 32. Tomorrow, partly sunny. It is going to be breezy, high of 56. Winds could gust as high as 32 miles an hour. By Tuesday night, rain and snow showers are a possibility in the overnight hours. We are expecting a low of 32. Then a 60% chance of rain and snow for Wednesday. Winds are going to be picking up as well, and we are expecting a high of 47. That's Look at Your Weather for Zeb at the Range.
I appreciate it, Gina. Thank you. And brought to everybody by the professionals. And that's, of course, Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Don't hesitate. Have them work for you, your family, and your business, and they can help you in so many ways. They really know accounting services, whether, like I said, it's tax return preparation or retirement planning, financial statement preparation. They know and can help you with offices at 1710 Overland Avenue in Burley and 625th Street in Rupert. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Also, quickly, I want to remind everybody about our dear friends over at Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley, with Curtis and Lorena and the staff. We were blessed to have Curtis come on the program last week on Thursday and tell us all about everything they have over there. Believe me, and everything is the key word. Home theater systems, surveillance cameras, car stereos and speakers, complete sound systems, all the TVs, and they know everything about them, let me tell you. Please stop in. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6, and the telephone number to call, 678-6997. The very best serving you with all your electronic needs. Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. We're going to take a little run at the national news right now and then come back, and we've got David Morgan, economist, coming on the program, and then at 10:30, Dog Days, followed by Vicky's Country Garden. Lots more to come on Zeb at the Ranch. Oh, good morning on a Monday, April 12th. Zeb at the Ranch, and of course with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the best in tires. As a matter of fact, a big spring tire sale going on right now. Don't forget, too, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, I'd also like to remind you, and I'm going to be over there this afternoon to see Jeff and the crew at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. Oh, my goodness, they got some fantastic low prices on flooring, and they've got a brand new shipment of sofas in. And I'm just telling you, you walk in, look around, and they're going to have everything you want for the beautification and the comfortization of your home. All the recliners, all the kitchen and dinette sets, everything at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. And above all, they've got a staff of really knowledgeable people to serve you Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, Saturdays, 10 to 4. Don't you forget the great staff at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. And a quick note before we go to our guest, I want to remind you, too, about a great place to go eat, and I mean that. Underline the word great. Wick's Steak Place and Burnout Saloon at 18 East Main Street in Declo. Wow. I mean, home run out of the park. These folks really put out a plate of food. And I mean, they've got so many delicious entrees. I mean, all the way from steaks and prime ribs to lobster and chicken and ribs. And you know what? All your friends are there. Why aren't you? Make sure you make a trip over this week, Wednesday through Saturday from 4 to closing time. Oh, it is delicious. Wick's Steak Place and Burnout Saloon, 18 East Main Street in Declo. Right now, we're going to go to the phone line, and we have with us the chief editor of the Morgan Report and co-author of the book called Second Chance, How to Make and Keep Big Money from the Coming Gold and Silver Shockwave. Good morning, Dave Morgan. How are you?
Doing good, Zeb. Thank you.
Nice to have you back on the program, and I'd like to kind of start off a little bit. Dave, you are really a good economic person to talk to. How much more can the American public absorb with these absolutely idiotic bills like $2 trillion here, another $1 trillion here for infrastructure, and keep absorbing the paper currency increase in our society with no real value behind it? How much more, Dave?
We don't know, but we also do know from past history that the answer is not much. Not much more. You know, $1 trillion here, $1 trillion there starts to add up to some real quote-unquote money. So we are at a point where we're exponential. We have stimulated, quote-unquote stimulated, the economy with about 25% increase in the money supply in a matter of months of what the base money supply was previous. So in other words, we're just raining down, fiat money, dollars, onto the populace, and a lot of the stimulus has gone not to, the American people, but to other programs that are outlined in the stimulus package. So it's very close. No one knows exactly. It's a psychological event. It's not a math event. If it was a math event, we knew that once you get beyond this much GDP, in other words, there's no way mathematically possible to pay off the debt. It's impossible. The only way it's going to be quote-unquote paid off is when the printing press hits, overdrive more than we're already at, and people psychologically say, I'd rather own a jar of peanut butter than hold on to dollars, because if I hold on to dollars, that peanut butter is going to cost me so much more the next time I go to the store. I'd rather have the peanut butter now than, pay what it's going to cost me in the future. So we're not at that point yet. We're doing everything that's going to make that event happen. And once the event happens, it happens rather rapidly, because the psychology changes from I need to save, I got to pay down my debt, I'm out of work, or I'm only working one job instead of two, and all those things are valid. And right now there's sort of deflationary pressure on the people, even with the increase in the money supply, because the money works. It's working. But people are also seeing the other side, which is increased food prices, which impacts almost everyone, and they can't ignore it. So there's kind of a tug of war between the deflationary side and the inflationary side.
Dave,
it's very clear. Every time you just run the printing presses with no regard to the value of the currency, it fails.
Let me just throw this at you, and feel free to correct me if you think I'm wrong, but with every penny increase at the diesel or gas pumps, that is feeding and fueling inflation that pretty soon the American public isn't going to be able to go anywhere or buy anything. With the increased cost of gasoline and energy, we are literally trying to run the United States as if it were a train right over the cliff. Do you agree with me or not?
Yeah, I'll follow that train of thought. It's a good one. First of all, I think the most important part of what we're discussing here is energy. Everyone thinks that the whole world runs on money. Money makes the world go round. There's books about it. There's movies about it. And most people believe it, and to some extent it's true. But really the truth is that money that is not what runs the world. It is energy. And for today's world, that means oil. And without energy or without oil, basically nothing happens. So your basic premise is probably the most important one,
that most people that really want to know how the physical economy works. I'm not talking about the stock market or the options or futures or all the stuff you hear in the financial press. I'm talking about the real honest-to-God economy. That runs on oil. So, yes, the bigger the increase in price of oil touches everything. It touches transportation, communication, food production, salaries. Anything you can name is related to oil because, again, without energy, nothing happens. So are we heading toward the cliff? Well, we're heading toward two cliffs. We're heading to the repudiation of the currency from foreigners that are going to take these dollars that are becoming worth less and worth less, and they will come back to the United States and buy anything of value that they can find. On top of that, we're heading toward the energy cliff. Believe it or not, the peak oil thing is not a scam. It's been blown off. Most hard thinkers like myself have been cast off, especially by the mainstream. But without the fracking phenomena, that is one of the worst ways to extract oil you can imagine. Without that, we would have been in a deficit some time ago. It has delayed the inevitable, but the inevitable is the energy cliff, and the train's going right for it. I'm thinking, based on current supply and demand, which could change, then we are probably a few years away from that. But that doesn't mean when we hit the cliff that it's over, which kind of we are. The point I'm making is this. Between now and the time we hit the cliff, we don't know where the price will be. Will we be at, $3.50 diesel or $5.50 diesel or $8 diesel and $6 gas or $9 gas? We don't know. So your point's well taken. Every increase, penny, dollar, half dollar, whatever you want to name it, that impacts the price to the consumer, any consumer, corporations have to buy energy. All of that plays directly into the physical economy, which means it's going to slow down. And it's going to slow down for two reasons, the cost and the availability.
David, let me ask you this. When it comes to the investing, if you will, in green energy, and Biden says that he's going to have charging stations all up and down every freeway across America, and that he's going to have literally millions more acres of solar panels and wind turbines. Wind and solar can never stand on its own. I'm not trying to act like an expert on this, but I've done a lot of research. It can never stand on its own as far as refurbishing or supplanting the energy we need on the energy grid. We will be deficient and we will go down in the depths of a third world country. That's my statement. I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely correct. I mean, I get people on the left and the right. I'm pretty much in the middle. I'm more of a libertarian bent and think, less government's the best government. But besides my politics, in fact, I can't find it. I did a pretty good study here recently, and it's on my pile of what I do. Anyway, I took a pretty hard look at it, and my calculations, I won't even give the numbers, but the calculations prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that if you solarized the entire planet with today's technology, you would probably feed something, I'm going to make up a number, of 10% of the needs. In other words, if you took every ounce of silver that's available now, to make a solar panel that's as efficient or more efficient than what we have, it's a spit in the ocean. It's not going to do anything. The other part that no one talks about, except my friend Steve St. Angelo, SRS Rocco, is that you got to use a lot of diesel and gasoline to produce those solar panels. You got to transport them. You've got to put them in a factory. All that stuff is run off of electricity. The thing about the EVs that really upsets me, and I'm not against electric vehicles, I'm just trying to tell the truth, is when you plug in your car to charge it, a lot of that's because it's charged burning coal or burning diesel, burning a hydrocarbon. Now, some of it comes from solar panels. But again, if it comes from solar panels, it didn't just magically appear. It took a lot of hydrocarbons to produce that solar panel. So the whole thing is not looked at properly. The only way to understand it with the truth is to look at EROI, energy return on energy invested. How much energy and oil do I have to put in to make that solar panel? And when I have made it and completed it, what is the payback formula? How long after I put in all this energy do I get that energy back out of that solar panel? And from that point forward, now I'm getting quote-unquote free energy. And how long does that last before the solar panel needs to be replaced? So there's a lot more to this than most people ever think about, and I was criticized for my stance on it. I stand hard. You can tell from my voice. I don't back down. But I had a few of, let's say, questioning my take on it, and it's not my take. It's not. What it is, it's my statement based on the facts. That's what it is.
Dave, let me ask you, we've got another caller with a question prior to my another question. So, caller, good morning. You're on the air. Please go ahead. Quickly.
Well, the intellectual insincerity of all these people with where our energy stands is so unbelievable, and the media goes along because of the agenda. Now, you say fracking is a terrible thing. I don't know that I agree with you at all. And so I have evidence to say otherwise. Okay, so if we don't frack, then we can run this energy system, all of it. We can make power. We can run diesel trucks, tractors, cars on natural gas, which is abundance beyond belief. And but you see, that's another lie, an intellectual, insincere lie about it. There is an answer. It's called natural gas, and it can be done now. I'll hang up.
Respond to the caller, please, David.
Sure. I probably should have added another adjective. It's a terrible way. It's not terrible doing it, although it does have some environmental issues in certain cases. It's terrible from the aspect of it's the worst case for energy return on energy investment. In other words, you want to get at least a 10-to-1 ratio. For a gallon of gasoline, you want to be able to get, or a gallon of barrel of oil, you want to get out 10 barrels of oil. On fracking, you're getting about one barrel of oil yields 5, which sounds good, but when you really extract what that means, it's really not that. It's terrible. That's where my word comes from, because you need 10 to basically break even if you take in refining, the transportation, getting it to whatever plant's going to burn it. So am I against it? No, I'm for energy. But what it's telling us is that we've run out of the easy-to-get-to energy. There's other people that think that there's like an abundance of energy in Prudhoe Bay, Alaska. I've looked at it. I don't know. I'm not an expert. But from what I can tell, what I consider to be the facts, and that's hard to determine, but to the best of my ability, you get a lot of natural gas out of fracking. And natural gas is a superior, probably one of the best hydrocarbons we can use. I don't disagree with that. But the idea that we have enough, I don't agree with. I don't think we could go on indefinitely at the current burn rate. Now, the burn rate could change based on a lot of things. One's price. If you can't afford it, then you're going to freeze to death in your home. I'm not trying to be too funny here, but that's an extreme case. That could happen. It certainly has happened in certain areas. So there's a lot more to the story. I hope I satisfied him. I'm not saying I'm really against fracking. What I'm saying is it's a terrible way to get energy, but we're at that point where if we need it, we're going to do whatever we can, and we have chosen to do it, and we do get a return on it, but the return is very weak compared to what we used to get in the past.
I want to change gears a little bit here and talk a little bit about the taxation program that the Biden administration wants to impose on not only the big corporations, but it's going to have a filter-down effect all the way to every American. We're getting through this COVID mess for the last 13, 14 months. Hopefully more businesses will be able to open at a full capacity. People won't have to close their doors. And now the government is going to walk up and slap them in the face with much higher taxes. Isn't this absolutely ridiculous at this time when people are trying to get their feet back on the ground?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big proponent of something very simple. You know, the government, he who governs least governs best. I mean, the whole premise was that we were self-governing, which means we get to make our own decisions. As long as they're within the bounds of the law, everybody's happy, and the law can be broken down to a couple of basic statements. One is do everything you say you're going to do. In other words, when you make a deal, you abide by it. And if you don't, then there's consequences to it. But, no, we've over-amped everything, and you're right. To tax producers is the worst way to make a strong economy. You don't want to tax the productive side. You want to basically let it run free. I mean, you could actually do a thought experiment. If you really wanted to get the economy moving, just eliminate the federal income tax for 2 years and see what would happen.
You know, Dave, I want to talk about your book, The Second Chance, How to Make and Keep Big Money from the Coming Gold and Silver Shockwave. I guess the inference that I would take from that title is that there's going to be a big run on gold and silver for purchasing power. Is that correct?
That is correct. And all of history showing that we're moving that direction. We're in the third leg up as far as my deep study can determine, which means that we're in the part of the market where 90% of the move comes in the last 10% of the time. Does it mean 90% and 10? No. But that's a general idea. You get the acceleration move. The big money is made in the final phase of any bull market. Look at the tech wreck. Look at the housing market. Look at the Japan stock market in the 1990s. Markets exhibit this behavior, and stock market's showing it, as I just said, where everybody kind of gets in late to the party because there's fear of missing out. It's moving up. It's moving up. I mean, Bitcoin's a good example. So we are entering the beginning of that part of the precious metals markets, which means that this is the part you really want to participate in. And the part about keeping big money is that a lot of people see an acceleration, they stay too long. They're not willing to take a, healthy profit and leave some for the next person. Now, the only issue I've really got personally, for the public and private people that follow my work, is do we want to sell something as precious as gold or silver for a piece of paper when the value is really, running away from us?
Right.
And the answer is probably maybe not. But that doesn't mean you couldn't do a direct exchange for, gold for land, gold for a business, gold or silver for, a farm, whatever. So when we get there, I will call the top to the best of my ability, and we'll examine whether or not you want to turn into fiat or not. But we just want people to be able to have a mindset that they're able to cash out at some point without watching it peak and then watching it come back down and just holding on because they believe it can't do anything but go up. That's how all these markets work. At the top, there are no buyers. Everybody thinks it can only go higher, but no one's willing to put up any more cash to make it happen, and now the market reacts and starts coming back down.
Dave, what would you tell the audience, though? Maybe they've never invested in gold or silver. They don't know that much about how to or what to do. I mean, what would you tell them as far as looking at the paper currency and saying that's nothing more than paper and I need to have something more solid? How would they get started?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, it's easier to buy gold and silver than any other financial asset. It's easier than buying a stock or a bond or anything. So the easiest way to do, I think the best thing to do is a little paper I wrote called The 10 Rules of Silver Investing. Just go to a search engine on the web and type in 10 Rules of Silver Investing, David Morgan, and it'll pop up the 10 rules of, it applies to investing, but particularly the precious metals. And you can find a dealer in your town if you're in a good-sized town, and if not, there's plenty of places on the Internet that you can buy over the Internet with a phone call or off the web directly if you wish to. And follow the rules in the 10 Rules of Silver Investing. Start small. In other words, if you never bought silver before and you do it, you're going to put in $1,000, start off with 100. And make sure that you get it and all that. Now, there's very little fraud in the precious metals industry, but there is some. And outline of those 10 rules will keep you from making a mistake. So that's the best advice I could give.
What's the number one thing that you want the readers of your book to take away when they finish and close the back cover? What do you want the readers to know and understand about your book, Second Chance?
I want them to know that there's an opportunity to maintain their wealth and probably increase it. And it's all based on knowledge and action. And when they close that last page, I want them to feel a deep satisfaction that they now know what to do and they take action to do it.
Excellent. Where can the book be picked up?
You can get it on a couple places. Lulu is our publisher, but the best place really is the website, BobMorganReport.com. BobMorganReport.com, and pull down the Books tab. And when you pull down the Books tab, you just click Second Chance, and it'll set you up.
Absolutely. The chief editor of the Morgan Report and the co-author of Second Chance, How to Make and Keep Big Money from the Coming Gold and Silver Shockwave, David Morgan. Dave, God bless you, man, and thanks for being on the program.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. Interesting about gold and silver, and with taxation and everything else, we've got a lot of things to be concerned about. And you know what? We've got a lot of things that you need to be diligent to understand and be not only aware of, but to take action on for the protection of you, your family, and your financial status. What have I got cooking here right now? I'm going to remind everybody that at 10:32, we're going to be talking to Deb Hines with Minidoka Animal Control and Dog Days. And then at 10:46, we have the lovely Miss Vicky at Vicky's Country Gardens talking about the gardens and everything. I know with the sunshine out there and everybody's getting really excited about getting outside and enjoying the garden. And then I'm going to put a little damper on it, and I heard that they're possibly talking about snow tomorrow night or into the early morning hours of Wednesday. We'll wait and see. Let's see what else have we got. Tomorrow on the program, I want to mention this because I may not have a lot of time at the end of the show. I believe we're going to have Dan Kish with American Energy Alliance. We're going to have Dr. History. We will be having, I think, tomorrow, the last Idaho legislative update. I believe it's going to be with Senator Kelly Anthon, and I'll verify that tomorrow at 10:30, brought to you by Handy Truck Lines. So make a note of that. Tomorrow at 10:30, I think it will be the last Idaho legislative update. Right now, we're going to get ready to send this back over to Sean, always doing a good job, and we'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
And I thank you very much. Busy program this morning. And right now, we're going to kind of move over across the desert and through the river and over to the Minidoka Animal Control and say good morning to the lady that knows more about canines than anybody I know. Hello, Deb Hines. How are you?
I'm good, Mr. Bell. How are you?
I am fantastic, and I want to take the time to also thank you and the other Deb for taking time to come to the Zeb's Lunch Bunch last week. We really appreciated having you there.
Well, and we want to come again, only this time I'm going to tell them I'm not going to be available, so we get to stay for the whole thing.
Okay. Well, we'll certainly look forward to having you there. Let me ask you, before we talk about some of the featured dogs for this morning, let's talk a little bit of the dog owners. You know, people are reliant upon maybe putting their dog out on a chain and maybe having a little housing out there to keep them out of the weather, etc. But let's talk a little bit about dog collars and the way that they're chained up. Sometimes they break loose, and then that's where you come into the picture, and you end up trying to find their home, their owner, or maybe a new home or a new owner. What would you tell the people with dogs outside on chains?
Well, my preference is that you build a fence or go by a kennel, like they sell at Cal Ranch or anywhere, actually. Keeping a dog on a chain, I understand when people have to do that, but please remember that the dog's there and take it and interact with it. Don't just leave it there forever, because that's not good for them. Have to have, or just like, you know, sometimes we need them.
Yeah.
So I would rather they don't go on a chain, but I also understand that sometimes there's only that option.
What about the dog collars themselves? Would you suggest that somebody, and it's not really that expensive, what kind of dog collars with possibly information on the owner, the residents, etc.? What about getting those collars? Where do they go?
You can get a collar anywhere. The kind that I like, that I use on my dogs, are the ones that buckle, not the ones that have the clip on them, because those can work loose. And then, honestly, get a dog tag. Because that way, if we have dog tags here, I can call you and get you your dog home.
The other thing that I'm way high on, and all of my animals are, I have them chipped. And no, it is not a GPS system. However, we have a scanner. I have a scanner in my work truck. We got a scanner at the shelter. All of vets have scanners now. And as soon as you scan them, that number comes up. You call who you need to call. They tell you who the people are, and you get the dog home. I mean, it's just, and it cannot be removed like a collar can.
Okay. Now, Deb, let me ask you this. We're going into April and May, June, warmer temperatures, hopefully. And at this time of the year, what diseases or what vaccinations should be taken care of for the dogs to stay healthy?
I think they need to get their boosters within a year, according to what your vet tells you, which is everything up to and including rabies, parvo, you name it, get it done. In the heat, we're going to be looking at fleas and things like that, but there's things out there that you can use that will help you alleviate that issue too. It also doesn't hurt when I have long-haired dogs. I get them trimmed twice a year, at least, to keep that heat factor down and to keep the disease, the mites and all that other crap from getting into them. I realize it sounds ridiculous, but honestly, it's maintenance.
Right.
And if you have a dog or a horse or a cattle or anything, they have to have stuff just like everybody else in the world.
Absolutely. Now, when you talk about the ticks coming into tick season, etc., a lot of people take their dogs up into the hills with them when they go four-wheeling or whatever. Boy, that's kind of a danger to pick up all those ticks, too, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and that's when you really need to make sure you've got some kind of a tick thing going on. I know they have those flea and tick collars, the white ones that you can put on them. I use the medication from the vets because you only have to give it to them like every 3 months, if I remember correctly. And to me, those work better than the collars.
Okay.
But, yeah, and, I know people think I'm ridiculous, but let's be honest. If you can get that, your animals can get it. They're not built, they're on 4 legs, can't talk, but they can get the same things we do, up to and including a cold.
Now, what about, is there a book, or do you recommend a book, or do you have numbers of people to call? Where a lot of people that are first dog owners, maybe they've moved out into a suburban area, and they thought, well, we'll get the family a dog, and they really don't know who to talk to. What is the best source of getting information on how to take care of a dog?
We've got books here. You can order books. If they call the shelter and ask, we can help them here. Any shelter can. We can make recommendations. We also have names of trainers. I finally got some names a couple weeks ago, some good trainers here. So, my view is if you need it, I'm going to help you with it. Because to me, that's your kid. Like, again, it's on 4 legs, but it's still your child. And I will help you keep that child healthy and safe.
Absolutely. And another time, I had a call after the last time you were on the air, and this lady was really inquisitive about what do you recommend as the best dog food for younger dogs, probably about a year old. Does it depend on their breed, their size, or whatever, or what kind of a dog food would you recommend?
What I tell people, and you've heard me say this before, is if you have a very, very active dog, and I mean super active, you need to get a higher protein. And honestly, there's some that I wouldn't recommend, but Purina, what else? Let's see, there's, red flannel. I mean, there's dog foods everywhere. But check the protein level, because if your dog's active, you need a higher protein because they're working it off all the time. If you have a couch potato, get the lowest protein food you can get because that other stuff will make them sick.
Well, now when you say
they're not getting rid of that protein that their body can't digest it because they're not doing anything.
Well, Deb, though, let me ask you a question real quick. Is there a median number, like a certain protein level, that they can look for, that there's going to be a higher number or a lower number? I mean, what's the median level number?
We use protein between 18 and 20.
I see.
And when you look at your bags that you buy dog food, it'll list the protein on there. So that's what we do. And the other thing we do here is because thank goodness for all the people that support us, we get dog food donated all the time. So we mix a lot of foods here.
I see.
When people adopt a dog, they say, what do you feed them? And we go, honestly, whatever we've mixed together. And we mix high and low protein together all the time to get a medium-type protein food to keep them so that they don't get the belly aches and they don't get diarrhea and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I can tell you, I mean, I know what I personally don't like, but I also don't know other people like other things, and I get it. So my thing is watch the protein, please, because that's the biggest factor in the whole world for these dogs.
Okay. Now, we've got a caller with a question. I'm down to the last 3 minutes. Caller, quickly, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Debbie, this is Ross. Be sure and mention the red dye. Dogs can't handle that red dye. It's toxic, and it'll kill them. Anyway, I'll hang up. Bye.
Go ahead, Debbie, please.
Well, and Ross is right. Don't give them anything that's 100% red dye. You know, you can get brown kibble. But a lot of these now have colored kibble, but the colors are not just dye. And that's the other thing. Look at it. Some of that colored stuff is actually vegetable-based or, some other kind of base thing. It's not just dyed food. It's colored because it's of what's in that food, and it's good for the dog.
Yeah. Debbie,
I mean, they need to eat vegetables just like we do.
Absolutely. Debbie, real quick, we've got time to feature one dog. Give us your feature canine for the week.
My featured canine today is Paris. She is a German Shepherd, purebred. This is one beautiful, beautiful dog. Her only issue is small animals. She cannot be with small animals. She thinks they're lunch, and they're not. With larger dogs, she's absolutely phenomenal. But if she gets around a rabbit, a guinea pig, and not even a cat, and things like that, she will eat them. But other than that, she's house-trained, leash-trained. This dog is awesome. But she just likes to eat little things.
And
if you're looking for a mouser, she might work.
All right. And what's the dog's name again?
Paris.
Paris. Okay. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you one more time real quick. Give us a real quick shout-out for Wagon Tails Rescue.
Yep, Wagon Tails is awesome. They are the ones that help pay for our spay and neuters. They're helping us for our vaccines. They're having a big shindig on the 22nd of this month to build up their spay and neuter thing. They also offer discounted spay and neuters to the public, so it's a good thing. They're good people to have in your back pocket and in your corner.
Absolutely. And Fido Fest is coming up on, help me if I say it wrong, April 22nd. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Deb, I thank you so much for all that you do on behalf of Minidoka Animal Control, along with your friends at Wagon Tails Rescue. God bless you. Take care of Paris and all the other dogs. Good program, lots of information. You take care of yourselves.
You too, Zeb. You guys have a good rest of your week.
All right, thank you so much. Nice lady right there, Deb Hines, Minidoka Animal Control. I've got to get right down to the weather forecast, brought to you by Scarrows Meats. Don Scarrow and the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. Don't forget the telephone number to call, 324-7657, or you can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com. Oh, my goodness sakes, all the delicious bacons, the different flavors, all the sausage, the bratwurst, and of course all the pork ribs, the tri-tip. The list goes on and on at Scarrows Meats. Lots of activities coming up in the spring and summer. You need to get a hold of Scarrows Meats, 324-7657. Right now, here's Gina with the forecast.
Enjoy today, but more spring-like weather is in the forecast. Here is a look at your weather. For today, sunny skies. We are expecting a high right around 55. Tonight, increasing clouds, low of 32. Tomorrow, partly sunny. It is going to be breezy, high of 56. Winds could gust as high as 32 miles an hour. By Tuesday night, rain and snow showers are a possibility in the overnight hours. We are expecting a low of 32. Then a 60% chance of rain and snow for Wednesday. Winds are going to be picking up as well, and we are expecting a high of 47. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the
Oh, my. Thank you, Gina. I appreciate it. And the weather brought to you by Scarrows Meats. Don Scarrow and his excellent staff at 331 North Road, Jerome. Again, that telephone number, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time at Scarrows Meats. Right now, I know my buddy Sean over at the station is getting a hold of the lovely Miss Vicky at Vicky's Country Gardens at 185 South, 600 West of Paul. And every year, I look forward to talking to this lady about gardening and growing all the various crops and the radishes and the corn and everything. And she's got a phenomenal store at Vicky's Country Garden to help you with what you need to make your garden grow. Let's see if she's on the phone. Good morning to the lovely Miss Vicky.
Good morning, Zeb. And I got news for you. I did not like that weather forecast.
You know, I got to be honest with you, Vicki. You and I have known each other for a long time, and I'm getting to be an old man. And when I start hearing more wind and possibly even snow, all I want to do is go out in the barn and get a great big old canvas parka and roll up in it.
That's about it. This 19, 20-degree nights is not bringing that ground temperature up at all to where people are going to be able to plant much. Hopefully I've been saying this, by next week, it's supposed to be getting warmer and we should be doing okay. But, this is not going to be conducive to plant much of anything right now. So kind of the cold crops and that are the only thing, the cabbages and that, and they're even starting to want a blanket. So they're about to look for their long johns and see if they can put them on for the next few days. So.
Well,
it's kind of ugly out there right now, and that wind does not do anything any good at all. It just makes everything it stresses the plants hard, and then when they get froze at night, it makes the frost hit them even harder. So just kind of be careful. If you do have some stuff out, make sure you've got some protection on it and got some cover for it.
Okay. Vicki, every single year since you've been on this program, we always get a letter or a note, and I've got one last week, an email, that was from a person that said, I don't know a thing about gardening. My husband and I just moved into southern Idaho about 3 months ago. We're going to have a garden this year. We don't even know what equipment we need to use for the garden. What would you tell the first-time gardeners? We might as well start from scratch right now.
Right. Well, basically, you're going to need a rototiller or a friend that has a rototiller, or rent a rototiller or something to that effect. You've got to work that ground up that you're going to be planting into. Get those weeds tilled down and get that ground loosened up and ready to plant. That's one of the main things that we need. You need to get, if you're putting compost on, you need to have that tiller work that compost into the ground so that, it's there and ready to go to work for you. Then basically the next thing you're going to need is a really nice hoe. Unfortunately, you can use the hoe to make rows in your garden to plant your seeds in. Plus, it also is that little tool that you use to knock them weeds down with. So
right.
That's kind of where you're at on it. There's other things that can be used in the garden. The weed mat can go down, but the basics is get the garden tilled, get the ground loosened up and ready to plant, so that when you are ready, it's hopefully it's ready to go.
Let me ask you this. In accordance with getting the ground ready to go, get it rototilled or plowed, whatever the case might be, is now a good time to figure out, depending on how big the garden is, to figure out how you're going to irrigate it?
Yes, it is. Because everything in your garden, a lot of things take different watering, as we've talked about before, and you need to design your garden out. And if you need help in that, we'd be more than glad to help them with that. But you need to design your garden so that your your plants and that don't need a lot of water are in one spot. If you're going to sprinkle, it's real hard to not sprinkle the whole garden at once. But sometimes you have to. So some of your crops, you want to put them way far away from the sprinkler if you can, and then have to maybe move a sprinkler over on them occasionally. But I still like surface irrigation. I'm old. I'm like you, Zeb. I'm old and I'm old-fashioned. So consequently, I like that surface irrigation. It gets the water to the root where you want it, not on the neighbor's field when the wind's blowing. And it just does a deeper soak, and your plants just do a lot better. Gated pipe or just, regular cork, just some little rows and run the hose down the rows or whatever. That way you can water what needs watered at that point in time, and what doesn't need it doesn't have to be drowned. So that's kind of my thought on irrigation.
Now, you've got all the seeds, and I mean that literally, for all the seeds for all the different crops, if you will, right there at Vicky's Country Garden, right?
We do have. We have a full. We have the biggest selection of bulk seed in Idaho. Actually, we're the largest from Ontario, Oregon to Logan, Utah.
Wow. Now, if they have questions...
We have the most bulk seed, and you can buy down as low as 22 cents.
Okay.
You don't have to buy 5 pounds in bulk. You can buy 3 zucchini seeds if that's all you need.
Okay. Another question that came in...
Doing just that. I only want 3 zucchini, and you can't make them take 4 either.
Okay. Vicki, I had another lady call in, and she says, where I have to put my garden at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's going to be completely shaded until the next morning. Is that good, bad, because I don't have any other place to put it?
Well, it's not the best scenario, but it's not the worst either. As long as it's getting a real good 5 to 6 hours of sunlight, and in the summertime we get that good warm morning sun, it should do all right. It shouldn't hinder it too bad. If it's only shaded from 1 o'clock in the it'll kind of keep things like your peppers and things like that from sunburning in that hot afternoon sun.
Now, you mentioned earlier, last week, as a matter of fact, that there were a lot of things that are cold crops, if you will, that could be planted. Now, with the snow coming on possibly this week on Tuesday and Wednesday, should they hold off for a couple more days, even if they're cold crops?
If they haven't got them planted, yes, because of the wind and the cold, I would hold off. If you've already got them planted, try to get some cover on them. Get them some kind of a little tarp, some kind of something. Give them a little blanket to kind of keep them from getting froze too hard. I mean, they can take it pretty good, but after they've been hit 3 or 4 or 5 nights in a row, it starts really telling on them. So kind of get them some cover to protect them out of that miserable wind. And but if you haven't planted, hold off until the weekend. We've got lots of cabbage and broccoli and all that kind of stuff. Hold off and put them out when it's a little warmer, and they'll thank you big time.
Another question came in, and we talked about this earlier, but I've got to ask you this one. A lady called in, and she says, well, I don't know how much to plant. It's just for my husband and I don't know how much is too much.
If they're not going to can, then start with smaller amounts. Like I say, if they want some fresh-eating beans, if they plant a space in their garden about 4 foot long with beans, that's going to produce enough for some good fresh-eating beans. And then they'll know next year if they want more. Same thing with like tomatoes. A couple of good tomato plants is going to give them plenty of tomatoes. One of the small, like the little cherry tomatoes, and then possibly one good slicer, that type of thing. Plant small rows enjoy them, and then next year go, that wasn't quite enough. I think I'll enlarge my garden. But otherwise, you plant these great big rows, and then all of a sudden it's like, I don't want all this garbage, and you can't get anybody to take it, and you ended up wasting your time. So plant small amounts if you're just doing for 2 people for fresh eating, and then work your way up from there for the next year.
Absolutely. One other question, I should have mentioned this earlier, but for those that are planting a garden and maybe it's in an area that's never been tilled before and they don't know if it's good for gardening, should they go have a soil sample?
That's always a real good idea in this area. We can second guess this ground all we want to, but if you'll just dig down and take a couple of samples throughout the garden about 6 inches deep and put them in a Ziploc bag and take them down to Twin. They'll run a test on it, and they'll tell you whether you need soil sulfur, if your pH is too high, if this, if that, if you need magnesium, if you need trace minerals, and then we know where we're going with it, and we know how to help you at that point in time.
Vicki, I'll tell you what, give us the hours that you're open over there at Vicki's Country Garden.
Well, right now we are open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and we're here Saturdays, 9 to 4, and we are still closed on Sundays. Hours will be lengthening as the weather warms up and people start gardening more. We will extend our hours some, but we'll let you know at that point in time.
And the key words were when the weather warms up.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't get carried away because that ground temp's too cold. We got too much snow up on that mountain. We still got cold weather ahead of us. And don't get to jumping the gun on putting tomatoes and peppers and things like that in the ground. They're just not going to do any good for you.
I tell you, this lady knows. Vicki at Vicki's Country Garden, 185 South, 600 West of Paul. Number to call, 438-5663. Vicki, God bless you, and we'll talk to you next Monday.
We'll be here, Zeb.
Thank you much. Take care.
You bet.
Wonderful lady right there at Vicki's Country Garden. And I want to also end the program by saying our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 of them have a great big spring tire sale going on right now. All the tires, all the sizes, all the tread design for all the vehicles. You better get in there and save money and drive safely. Along with that, don't forget, you've got tires that might have gone flat, you got nails or whatever. Hey, they've got the best in repair service right there at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And don't forget on the farm service, on the dairy service for all your loaders, etc. They can be there. You just got to give them a call. Service reigns supreme at all 7 locations, with also the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts and batteries, with James and Buell, Dan on Pole Line in Twin Falls, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, the Twist family in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland and Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Our Bible verse for today comes from Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 20. Never curse the king, not even in your thoughts, nor the rich man either, for a little bird will tell them what you've said. Think about that. Right now, we're going to tell you that's it for today. We're going to wrap it up, put it back in the box, and say the way things were, the way things ought to be. And, of course, the 4 words that mean the most to me, in God we trust. Thanks, Sean, over at the station. And we'll be back tomorrow morning at 8:06, Zeb at the Ranch.